Hi, my name's Julie and I'm today's host of Left Wing, brought to you by Tulsa Young Democrats. And today's special guest is Oklahoma Attorney General candidate Nick Coffey.
Thank you all to Tulsa Young Democrats for having me. Again, my name is Nick Coffey. I'm the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma Attorney General. We actually didn't even have a candidate for statewide Attorney General 4 years ago, which is crazy because we can talk more about this, but it really is the most important position in state government. People think, oh, it's the governor's race that really matters, but if we're talking about impact on a daily basis and immediately, it's actually the Attorney General's race. So happy to be here, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. So I'm fifth generation Oklahoma, born and raised in Oklahoma City. I know, do not hold that against me. I'm not wading into the Tulsa Oklahoma City debate, but my mom actually grew up in Tulsa. My granddad settled here after he got out of the Navy in late 40s or 50s. He settled here in Tulsa with my grandmother Patsy, and my granddad was later on JFK's U.S. attorney here in Tulsa. So he served in Robert F. Kennedy's Justice Department, and so I grew up hearing about my granddad's stories about working as a federal prosecutor, and obviously grew up spending a lot of time here in Tulsa. A lot of holidays, Easters, 4th of July's. I spent the majority of my legal career as a federal prosecutor. I think the AG's position is the one position, like I said, you have immediate impact and touch people, I think, in really important ways. And so the four things that I'm focused on, I call them 4 C's, Coffey's 4 C's: children, crime, corruption, and costs. There are concrete things the AG can do in every one of those areas, and I'm sure we'll get into those a little bit as we dive into these hot wings and what should be an excruciating, painful experience.
All right, well, thank you for that introduction. So our first question and our first swing, young voters have the lowest voter turnout nationwide. This is especially true for judicial elections. What would you say to mobilize young voters into voting for judicial elections such as AG?
Judicial elections themselves don't get as much press. And actually the AG's race, just so everybody knows out there, it's not technically a judicial election. It's going to be on the ballot in November with governor, lieutenant governor, U.S. Senate, congressional races. And so, but I will say this, like a judicial election, a county judge position, it should be somewhat apolitical. It should be somewhat nonpartisan, but it's not. It's just the system we live in. You pick a party to run under. And what I guess, what I would say to young voters, young voters are, they're either in their first home they've purchased, or they're about to purchase their first home. Okay. One of the things I want to focus on as Attorney General is the price of homeowner insurance premiums. This is something that's got a ton of press, right? Because we have the highest homeowner insurance premiums in the country. So some people watching this are probably saying, well, what in the world is the AG going to do about your homeowner insurance premium? A lot. So, for example, making sure the insurance commissioner does his job and that we have a fair and competitive market. The insurance commissioner's never had to go on record and explain why the market's competitive right now when we have the highest premiums in the country. Okay, never had to do that. Also, there's also been news about cases against State Farm and other insurance companies that have denied claims inappropriately. That's one thing that young voters should really, really care about, I think. And so if you're coming at it from an economic perspective, it matters. And if you're coming at it from a social justice and criminal justice and making sure we have smart and responsible policing, kind of like they're doing here in Tulsa, the AG's office is something you've got to care about.
Yeah. All right, and now for our first wing.
Okay, so just number 1?
Yes, spice level 1's got some citrus, a little zesty, so shouldn't be too bad.
Okay. Not spicy.
No, I actually like that one.
It's good.
It's pretty good.
Did you make these wings?
No, Wingstop. All right, for question 2. You've previously made a statement that labeling yourself as conservative or liberal makes you unfit for the position. Can you elaborate on why the partisan alignment and politicalization of judicial offices is harmful. I know you got into that a little bit earlier. If you just wanted to elaborate.
No, sure. Really, the point is that some of this stuff is just, frankly, they're cheap talking points. You're running to be the attorney for the state, and we can talk a little bit more about what the Attorney General actually does. Here's the problem. If you are calling yourself the conservative candidate or the liberal candidate, the problem is when you get in the AG's office, you're going to have to look at cases, you're going to have to follow the facts and follow the law, okay? You're probably saying, well, that's kind of abstract. What are you talking about? Tribal sovereignty is a perfect example of this. You know, there's been some stuff in the news. The latest sort of issue of tribal sovereignty has been whether tribal members need hunting and fishing licenses, or whether those are required when they're on tribal land. There's been a big dispute between the governor and the attorney general. Here's the deal: there is a Supreme Court precedent on point that it's been around since like 1983 that has addressed this very issue, and so providing that tribal members do not need state licenses when their tribe already has a comprehensive hunting and fishing license system. Okay, that's a perfect example of how, if you go into the office just talking about doing the liberal thing or doing the conservative thing, you're really not doing a service to the people that have elected you, taxpayers, because you're not going to follow whatever Supreme Court precedent. You're going to do whatever you think the whatever party you belong to want you to do. And at the end of the day, you might be doing that, and you might not have a legal precedent on your side, and you might be wasting a whole bunch of tax dollars. And so I think part of being the attorney general is applying the law and doing it in a fair and honest way, so that people actually see that the attorney general is not just another political figure. He is the chief attorney for the state, making sure that everybody plays by the rules.
Great, thank you. All right, now number 2. Okay, so this one is some ranch, lemon pepper, some carrot, and umami-packed yeast.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
All right, yeah. Picking up in intensity.
It's definitely there. So as Oklahoma's Attorney General, your duty is to uphold both the U.S. and Oklahoma constitutions. If you were asked by federal administration to take action that you believe is unconstitutional, as some states have argued in response to actions by the current administration and the DOJ, how would you respond?
One, you're disobeying your oath to Oklahoma's constitution, if you're, which largely mirrors the United States Constitution.
Yes.
Look, if you think it's unconstitutional and you've got actual legal precedent on your side that says it's unconstitutional, how in the world are you going to justify doing it? And I don't care if it is a Republican or Democratic administration, but there's been a lot of talk, obviously, about what happened in Minnesota. And specifically, the number one of the questions I got pretty regularly is, well, you know, if something like that were to happen in Oklahoma, would there be accountability for the officers that shot Alex Preddy and Renee Good? The answer is, yeah, there would be, and they would run through the judicial system like any other defendant, right? And the point is that if you are not willing to hold law enforcement accountable, whether it's that's in a Republican or Democratic administration, why are you even running for attorney general? It needs to be a serious question that you ask yourself. And so, yeah, I feel like that's a kind of a no-brainer. If you're asked to do something that you think is unconstitutional and you have the legal precedent to back it up, no, you can't do it. And if your answer is the other way, you're just you're turning the AG position into, you know, a political position, a political stepping stone. You're just acting as the essentially the puppet, I think, of some political administration, and that's not the role of the attorney general, not by a long shot.
Right. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Are we ready for number 3 now?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
It's not. Now I kind of feel some sweating maybe coming. Be glistening.
No, it's not too bad. I think this one is a mango habanero. Given that much of Oklahoma is recognized as tribal land following the McGirt v. Oklahoma decision, how would you approach building respectful government-to-government partnerships with tribal nations? And what would that look like in practice as AG?
The biggest thing, like I think I mentioned earlier, is where there's Supreme Court precedent on point. Tribal sovereignty is not one of these things where I know people just say, oh, I don't really like it. It's inconvenient given the jurisdictional gaps that have been left in the wake of McGirt. There's one entity that can fix the jurisdictional gaps, can address them, and it's United States Congress, right? And frankly, the governor and the AG and everyone else fighting over it does no good. It just wastes taxpayer money. It results in more lawsuits, and yeah, that's the point. When you don't have compacts, you've got more lawsuits. No one wants that. The AG needs to do whatever he or she can to ensure that there are compacts reached. Now, can the AG force a tribe and a city, for example, enter into a compact? Of course not. But I do think you have an enormously strong platform and you can encourage those compacts to be worked out. But I also want to put this out there. I've obviously been going around the state, and one of the things I make a point of doing is I try to meet with sheriffs, or I try to meet with police chiefs, many of whom are responsible, have jurisdiction in what is now Indian country because of McGirt. And while you might read the paper and think the sky is falling down right now, we have all these problems and these jurisdictional gaps, they're actually not the case. You talk to police chiefs, and what pretty much all of them say is that we're working really well with our tribal partners. And so I think for the AG to continue to foster that sort of cooperation, and also do what the AG, use the resources of that office, one, to cross-deputize certain law enforcement agents in the state of Oklahoma, such that they can make, with the tribe's support, they can make arrests for certain offenses in Indian country. I think that's going to be very important. And also, given the, this is a constantly moving field because, again, the United States Congress hasn't done anything to tell us how to apply the law. And we're left, basically for these issues to get worked out piecemeal by the courts. And so what the AG can do, I think, is provide essentially a framework. Okay, these are the cases that have been decided. These are the rules. These are how the police chiefs and the sheriffs and other law enforcement personnel in Oklahoma need to apply them. Give guidance, right?
Right. Right. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. Okay. Are we on to number 4? This one is, I think this is also a citrus pepper one.
Okay. We'll see if there's citrus. We'll see if there's pepper.
With Scotch bonnet peppers?
I think so.
Very citrus. I think that one's my favorite so far.
I think the third one's still my favorite.
Really?
I don't know. Kind of a toss-up. Am I going to be dripping in sweat by the end?
We'll see.
Okay.
Those last two, we kicked it up a notch. Okay.
Are you going for the ice cream?
Time to go for the ice cream. Okay. Number 5. How will you protect civil rights as Attorney General?
A good example of how you can protect civil rights, what I mentioned earlier with,
right.
If there are federal law enforcement agents, right, that are violating people's civil rights. Now, I don't know if that's happening yet in Oklahoma, but look, I mean, it's the job of the Attorney General to do what he can to make sure that people stay vigilant, right? Right. So, and we didn't, maybe we dived into this really, but the AG, the AG is not just the kind of the prosecutor for the state, right? You've got 30 something, I believe, district attorneys across the state that handle prosecuting crimes in their districts. And so you're probably asking, well, then what does the AG actually do when it comes to crime? Well, you can run investigations out of your office, and traditionally, right, you've got the large statewide criminal activity that's going on. The AG they can investigate that, and then yes, the AG can bring their own cases, right? But what the AG can do when it comes to the individual cases that are prosecuted by the district attorneys is if there are civil rights violations. Obviously, the AG can step in and put a stop to that. Now, that's not to say that I'm in any way a favor of just taking all of the district attorneys' cases. I mean, let the DA should be able to do what the people elect them to do, right? But the AG does need to make sure that within those cases, if there are instances the AG's office is aware of where there have been civil rights violated, that does become the concern of the Attorney General, right? I think about all of the, all the civil rights violations that are going on in county jails.
Yeah.
I mean, did you know that Tulsa County has had to pay out, I don't know the number, let's just say it's at least millions of dollars. It's probably in tens, maybe hundreds of these are payouts to people that have died while in the care of Tulsa County Jail or the company that they've hired to provide medical services. Right. Okay. That should be an issue for the Attorney General. I mean, even if you do not care about, which you should, even if you do not care about how we treat people that are detained, and frankly, you should, because I think that it says a lot about a society, how you treat the incarcerated.
Absolutely.
At least care about it from the standpoint of everyone in the community is having to pay their property taxes are going up when they've got to pay these massive judgments to the people who've had their civil rights violated and many times have died in the care of Tulsa County and Oklahoma County and other county jails. That is a huge issue. The other thing I'll say is you hear about these high-profile clemency cases that go before the governor, they go before the Pardon and Parole Board, and then ultimately the question is whether there will be some form of clemency, which can be anything from taking someone off death row or to pardoning them and releasing them from custody. Okay, the AG does not get to decide that on his own. And actually, there's a committee that decides it. But what the AG does is the AG has basically like a strong voice in the room. So one of the roles of the Attorney General's office is those cases that go before the Pardon and Parole Board. The AG's office is briefing them. They are reviewing them extensively. And so that's why it's really important to have an actual trial attorney and someone that's done appellate work like I have, that's good at reviewing a record, that understands how that process plays out. Because as Attorney General, you need to make sure that everybody below got a fair trial, and you need to make sure that the sentence they got was fair when compared to their co-defendants. You need to make sure that there weren't evidentiary issues. You need to make sure that there wasn't prosecutorial misconduct, right? So those are all ways, sort of just, I could probably go on longer, that the Attorney General can immediately impact civil rights.
That's great. Thank you. And I also wanted to highlight, I really appreciate your point of how it says a lot about society if we don't care about the incarcerated, and your point about how the AG's office could have holding accountability in issues such as the Tulsa County Jail. Because on principle, these are people who are still presumed innocent when you're in jail and not prison. So I wanted to highlight that I appreciate that, because our next question would be leading into criminal justice.
Well, and then one thing, I'll let you ask the next question. Maybe it'll be relevant.
This one is...
What flavors are we dealing with?
Apricot, sophisticated flavors, and potent peppers.
Smells extremely spicy.
Is it number 8? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that one's a lot.
I'm not finished yet.
I don't know if I can.
If you can't, look, I'm telling myself I can't finish this wing. I don't have any business running for statewide office. So you gotta
I respect that.
It's my commitment to the race.
Not so much your mouth, it's like your lips. Yeah.
All right. Now sweating's to start.
Oh my gosh.
You're right, Julie?
Getting worse somehow? Okay. Yeah. So yes, now going into the criminal justice question for number 6 is, what role should the Attorney General play in reducing incarceration rates while maintaining public safety? And I will caveat, I know you said, DA at local levels, they choose what cases to prosecute. But with your oversight, how do you think you can play a role in reducing incarceration rates while maintaining public safety?
And actually, I'm glad you asked this, because that's actually the point I was going to make following up. People think that this is a political issue. It's neatly divided right and left. It's really not. I've talked to very conservative DAs and sheriffs, that talk about how we have an over-incarceration problem in Oklahoma. This is an issue for them because they see the same people cycling in and out, and it's also an issue for them because they might not have space in their county jails because they've got nonviolent offenders in there, right? There might be very violent people that should do some time, and there isn't room in the facility. That's an issue.
Right.
Look, I would say that this also should be a bipartisan issue in the need to reduce incarceration in Oklahoma. I think there are different ways to do that. I think probably the biggest way to do that is to use the platform of Attorney General to work with the DAs to provide greater access to treatment courts. There are a lot of that end up in the criminal justice system because of their addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're different kind of drug offenses. All right. I was a federal prosecutor, so the cases I often dealt with involved Mexican drug trafficking organizations or the people that buying the drugs from the Mexican cartels, such as the Irish mobsters, the United Aryan Brotherhood, the Sureños, these violent prison gangs. When I talk about drug offenses in the context of criminal justice, I'm not talking about the people that picked up 50 kilos from the courier for the cartel at Guadalajara. I'm talking about the single mom that finds herself back in court again and again for relatively small drug problems, right? And I think everyone knows somebody that has been affected by addiction.
Yeah.
Everybody. And I think we need to remember that when people are coming in and out of the criminal justice system because of drug addiction, it's because they haven't gotten the help that they need. And we also need to remember that that's somebody's mom or dad or son or daughter or or a coworker from work. I mean, it's and so I think advocating for greater access to treatment programs is going to be huge. I also think what the Attorney General should probably be focused on is advocating, taking into account a person's background, right? When you are advocating for what type of sentence should be received. I used to, there was a federal judge in Oklahoma City. He himself was very conservative. But he told me something that I will never forget. He said, actually, being in this job doesn't make you more liberal. It doesn't make you more conservative. It actually pushes you to the middle.
Yeah.
Because in the federal system, you've got before someone is sentenced, you read essentially it's a pre-sentence report. So the probation office at the United States courts does an entire biography. It's a mini biography on a person. And so you read about some of the people that never really had a chance in life. And so you might come to that position extremely conservative, thinking that the answer is always to incarcerate. But then, and this judge was pointing out, who himself was very conservative, you read about the abuse that someone suffered as a child. You read about, their parents were addicted to drugs growing up. They had to fend for themselves. They weren't ever able to finish high school because they were caring for a younger sibling, things like that. And you realize that we need to keep that in mind when we are talking about criminal justice.
That's great. Thank you. Just a quick follow-up question on that. Oklahoma City and Tulsa County has implemented some really great alternative treatment programs.
Yep. Diversion hub and things like that.
Yeah. And so I'm glad you mentioned that. But for rural counties, that's a lot of resources and treatment that they're lacking. So as an Attorney General, is there something that your office could do to maybe bring resources to rural counties?
Well, I think that you get to testify. You're going to testify quite a bit as Attorney General in front of the legislature about your office's needs when it comes to resources. But you can also use that opportunity to advocate on behalf of DAs in their courts, that funding is needed for those sorts of things. So can the Attorney General kind of at will sua sponte just open up a treatment court in Rogers County or wherever? No. But you can use the platform in order to bring a greater awareness to it. And again,
absolutely,
I think this is a pretty bipartisan issue, and so I think that it's high time that we start focusing on that. Because look, at the end of the day, it's going to save even if you're not gung ho about criminal justice, it's going to save a bunch of taxpayer money. Because every time somebody does not get the help they need, and they end back up in the criminal justice system, it's a revolving door, and you're spending more and more money. And the goal at the end of the day needs to actually be to rehabilitate somebody. And I have seen the insides of Oklahoma prisons, the state system. They are not good places. They are, drugs run rampant in there. People oftentimes emerge with an addiction, and even though they didn't enter DOC with an addiction. And I think, look, if we are serious about addressing a lot of the problems we have in Oklahoma in terms of recidivism and addiction, we have got to get a handle on what is going on in the Department of Corrections. I mean, these are cases I dealt with as a federal prosecutor. I know that the Irish mob runs the prisons. I know that it is easier sometimes to get drugs inside the prison than it is out. Wow. And the legislature has got, and frankly, the Attorney General needs to be bringing RICO cases against these prison gangs that are destroying the system of rehabilitation that should be in place within the Department of Corrections.
Great answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Now on to our final wing. And this is, oh gosh, okay. Carolina Reaper, Ghost Pepper, and Dragon's Breath.
Is that the last one?
Yeah.
Really hot? Really hot?
Okay.
It's a drumstick too.
Okay,
so.
all right. I think.
Is it as hot as the last one?
Oh. Is it as hot as the last one? Which one's that?
I'm not sure.
The last one just says the Guinness World Record of the hottest chili on the planet. Oh my gosh, okay.
Here we go. Hope our stomachs don't hurt later.
Yeah. Oh, thank gosh, that's the last one. That one did me in. I know, I'm impressed. You haven't had to have any ice cream.
Wow, saving ice cream should be dessert, so save it for the end.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh. We're all right, we're good.
We're good. All right.
And that's not even all of them. That's like 6 of them, right? Like the actual challenge is 10 of them.
10 of them, yeah.
Bring them out. It's like no.
I think
well, I finished sucking. Oh, thank you, Garrett.
Okay.
It's the nick of time. You zooming on my sweat?
Okay, so we like to end on a more fun, more lighthearted note.
What is more fun than the Attorney General's race?
You know, that is such a good point.
Hey, I'm telling you, it's a Oklahoma Democrats should be very excited about this. We have polling back, and we are in a virtual tie with the likely Republican nominee. So
yeah, no,
we should be. Hey, it should be the most fun thing we're talking about this election season.
It is. It's going to be an optimistic year. So, name your ideal Supreme Court lineup.
My ideal Supreme Court. Well, since it's a hypothetical question, I get to give a hypothetical answer.
Sure.
Dead or alive.
Dead or alive, anything.
Okay, sure. Let's go. So I got 9, right?
Yeah.
All right. We need everybody to keep track here. Okay. Abraham Lincoln.
9. Okay.
George Washington. You know, Abraham Lincoln, the person that obviously the greatest president that ever lived. And probably without his assassination, we would not eventually have come together. Reconciliation probably never would have occurred.
Yeah.
George Washington, who I think in his farewell address, right, spoke about the dangers of politicization. You know, let's pause on political figures, okay?
Okay.
Charles Barkley. I like watching. I'm sure everybody likes watching Inside the NBA or whatever the show is now through. What's he on? It's not on TNT anymore. It's through ESPN, right?
The crowd is telling me yes.
Okay, yeah. Let's say Theodore Roosevelt.
Okay.
He studied law for a little bit.
Really?
He did, I think, and then he dropped out to pursue politics. But he's my favorite United States president, so I just want to see him on the court. All right, so that's 4. Okay.
Real.
All right. I need several. Are there any other like categories of people I should be looking at? Anybody. Your
ideal court.
Dumbledore.
Okay.
Dumbledore.
Okay.
Obviously, if you and let's put Gandalf on there as well.
Okay. Solid.
I don't know. People are motioning to me off camera. I don't know. I don't know what they're getting at. Let's put Bud Wilkinson on there.
Okay.
Bud Wilkinson on there. Obviously, 47 game winning streak. University of Oklahoma. He deserves to be on there.
Nice.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Okay, we're bringing her back. I support that. And if you had to retain one,
what do you mean if I had to retain one?
like somebody like on the court now,
Oh,
or you can appoint yourself. You know?
I'm not appointing myself. I will put my mom.
Okay.
She's a long time practicing attorney. She's she's been at the Attorney General's office a while. Did employment litigation. She's done a lot of different types of law. So probably my mother, Dixie Coffey.
I have a lot of faith in that court, so thank you for that.
Okay. Who do you think would be the Chief Justice?
I mean,
it'd be Dixie Coffey.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that next. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
We loved having you, and everybody, make sure to get out and vote and follow this campaign.
Coffeeforok.com, and then we're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, TikTok.
What else do you have that I'm forgetting about? We have Facebook too. I sometimes forget about Facebook. Coffeeforok.com. Yeah. But no, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for having me and asking me questions under this excruciatingly painful hot wing experience. We should do this again.
Okay.
We'll switch the sauces up this time. So
okay.
We'll get the other 4, and then we'll pick 2 of these. You get to pick 2 though.
Okay. I can do that.
Okay.
For you, I can do that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.